Reactive Training Systems.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the RTS podcast. Talking today with Brett Gibbs. We're sitting here in advance of the IPF Worlds for 2018. And just as kind of a theme that I'm sure you're catching at this point, we're talking to a lot of the RTS lifters. Unfortunately, we can't talk to all the RTS lifters who are headed to Calgary to lift and compete that we're fortunate enough to coach. We're actually coaching 15 people that are heading to Calgary this year. So we just can't, by the numbers, just can't get to everybody. But we are talking to a lot of the people that you guys want us to talk to. And today we're talking to Brett Gibbs. And we get to talk about a lot of cool stuff. We talk about what's been new with him in his training. A lot of you know that he had a quad tear going back a couple months, and how he's coped with that, how he's gone through the rehab, changes to his mentality. We talk about spearfishing and some of his exploits outside of powerlifting, which has been really cool. And then we talk about some more nuts and bolts kind of training things, because I'm me and I like to talk about training nuts and bolts. So I hope you guys enjoy this. We even get into some of Brett's tips on lifting and bench pressing, and just mental approaches to the sport, recovery, and lots of the things that we powerlifters like to talk about. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. Had a very enjoyable conversation. I appreciate Brett giving his time and chatting with me on the podcast. So if I'm correct, this podcast will post somewhat in advance of the World Championship in Calgary. So we're definitely looking forward to that. And if any of you are there, feel free to pop over and say hi. Me and the other RTS coaches, Ross and Jim, will be there. Paulie will be there, I'm sure. Paulie is always everywhere. I don't think Mark will make it up to this one though, which is definitely our loss. But also, by the time this podcast will post, we will have tickets on sale for our 10-year anniversary seminar. Our 10-year anniversary seminar is going to be held at Das Gym in Vienna, Austria. In my travels all over the world, I would say that is the coolest gym that I've ever been in. I mean, it's really on another level. So we were talking about putting together a 10-year anniversary seminar, which is kind of crazy to think that RTS has been a business for 10 years now. So we wanted to do this seminar. It's like, where are we going to do it? And I thought, if I could have it anywhere, we would do it at Das Gym in Vienna. And so we can, so that's what we're doing. So tickets are on sale on our website. We're doing this one a little bit different. We've got our seminar, which is kind of more traditional seminar type of content. We're doing some presentations on a number of interesting topics, ranging from training and emerging strategies and those types of topics, to nutrition, to mental training and mental approaches to training and lifting and competing and things like that. So that'll be all on one day. And then we've organized some small group sessions, some hands-on sessions for the second day. And it's kind of options, whatever you want, whatever is going to be the best fit for you. That's what you can do. If you want to see about what tickets are like, see the full presentation schedule and all that sort of thing, you just go to store.reactivetrainingsystems.com and you click on seminars. It should be on the far right side of your screen in the main menu there, and it'll be really easy to track down from there. You can get all the additional information. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to me or any of the other RTS folks. With that, I'm going to stop talking and I'll bring you guys Brett Gibbs. How about you, man? Have you done any spearfishing lately, by chance?
Oh man, spearfishing is one of those things for me, I love it, man. I'm hooked on it, So I try to get out every week. Normally once a week I try to get out.
Yeah.
So I haven't been out this week just because I was supposed to go out yesterday, but I just had too much on. I was just busy, and it's actually getting pretty cold at the moment. So when you actually do go, and my wetsuit I've had for about 18 months now, so it gets pretty cold, and I've got a bit of with the change of seasons coming in, it's coming into winter now, and so just had a bit of a sore throat. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a miss this week, and I'll just have something to look forward to when I get back to New Zealand after
Yeah.
the travel coming up.
Right.
But
Well,
yeah,
I love when you post pictures of that because it just seems so cool to me,
yeah,
and just that I don't know, it's a neat activity, and
yeah,
I've always enjoyed. I don't know, like I've done like touristy things before, like a bit of scuba diving, a
yeah.
little bit of snorkeling and stuff like that. So it seems like that, but make it better, you know?
Yeah, it's cool, man. Like I got into it with my old man. He used to just go, like, there was about 2 hours away. There was a real nice sort of, it's on the south coast of New Zealand, the North Island, and he'd always just go out looking for crayfish and just get parley, abalone. I don't know if you guys really have them over there, but I'd always go out with him just like casually. And then then one day he gave me a spear gun to try, and I shot a fish one day, and ever since then, I was like, oh, this is pretty fun, eh? Like, I really love the shooting part of it, like just trying to
Yeah.
hunt the fish. And then when I moved back to Wellington, I met a guy here locally and this sort of opened my eyes to spearfishing. It was like, we'll go to different spots that were a lot deeper. We're looking for different fish. We're looking for bigger fish, and just started to learn a whole lot more about, like, what spearfishing is really actually about. And ever since then, man, yeah, you just can't stop thinking about it. Eh? It's one of those things, when you're new to it, and you're just such an amateur. You know nothing, and then every bit of information you get, you're like, oh yeah, no, I can't wait to go try that next time. And like, and there's like ways to get better at it. It's not just about like jumping into the ocean and going, oh, okay, I want to get some food. It's like, you got to understand like fish behavior, where fish will be, what the currents are doing, how you can hold your breath longer, how you can go deeper, and etc. etc. So yeah, man, it's been
That's
something else to sort of focus on too.
that's really cool. I love that feeling that you get when you're into a thing and you're learning new stuff, and just that feeling of like, man, this could really change, my entire game up to this point, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that's really neat. So how old were you when you got into that?
Oh, I was probably like, I don't know, probably went just like casually, like 15 or so. Like it was just like my dad sort of got into it with a couple of his mates, and then one day he'd be like, oh, do you want to come out and just go look for some crayfish? And like, so that's a little bit different. They're just in a shallower area. You're just looking under rocks and cracks, and
Yeah.
Pa would just sort of sit on the rock. So you're sort of just like snooping around looking for that sort of stuff, and I'll just do that casual. Like I wasn't hooked on that, but it was like cool when I got out. And then like it's just been the last sort of 18 months when I've been back here. I'm like, oh, I want to get back into the water, and like sort of just gone at it full steam myself without him. And I've got all these other spear fishing mates, and it's turned into just like another big hobby, eh?
That's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Do you have other things that kind of fall into that category, or is it just kind of lifting weights and now spearfishing? I mean, how many things can you put in your life that you can get really excited about? I don't know, but
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, growing up for me, I was always really into sports. Say, like, I'm super competitive, man. So, like, I've played a lot of sports, and I guess New Zealand's main sport is rugby. So, I played that for a few seasons. I've played soccer for a season. Skateboarding was something else I do quite a bit, but I stopped skateboarding pretty much when I broke my arm years and years ago. So, like, I just did it casually, and then actually recently when I hurt, just before I hurt my quad, actually, I just started going to the skate park just down the road, like just in the half pipe. And I was like, oh man, this is fun. Like, why have we not been doing this for the last, 5, 6 years? So I was enjoying doing that. And then I hurt my quad. And then it was like a bit 50-50. And then with the world so close now, I'm like, and winter coming in, I'm like, oh, better be safe and maybe not go to the skate park today. So
yeah.
there's always something that I'm like, trying to do that's quite enjoyable, like just a little bit different dynamic from just being in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I really enjoy those things. Like I've actually started getting back into golf a bit as well. So I
Huh.
used to play golf like golf was my sport really. Like when I was from probably 12 to 18, like I was just playing a lot and like really really enjoyed it. Try to get really competitive, but it's one of those games, man. It's a tough game, and
Yeah.
so I've been probably just trying to play once a fortnight at the moment. Just trying to get on the course and do 9 holes or do 18 holes, and yeah, just whatever's going on.
Man, golf was a thing that I was too bad to be intrigued by it, I guess.
That's the thing. Like I think with a sport like that, like there's so much skill and coordination in that involved. Like for starters, you've got to have some degree of like coordination to just even get to the golf course. Let
Yeah.
alone like actually going, oh, I'm actually all right at this. Maybe I can pick it up. Maybe I can hit a good shot. And because I was so young, because I was like,
Right.
11, 12 when I sort of first went up, I was like, you can sort of develop that skill. But if you went up as like a 25-year-old and like, right, this is my first time trying to play golf, like, there's almost no hope, eh? Like, no one's going to enjoy it. So,
Yeah, no. Well, my really first foray into it, I had a class in college, and we still had PE classes in college, which is kind of unusual. But golf was one of them, and man, I suffered through that class. I actually injured myself playing golf. Just
oh,
because,
yeah.
just because I'm that uncoordinated. Apparently, it took a big divot and hurt my wrist.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, you
Yeah,
can.
just
A lot of guys do that, actually.
yeah. Well, just preventable things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Powerlifters should
Yeah,
stay in the weight room, I guess. But
yeah,
no,
most of the time.
that's really cool. I have tried myself a bit to take on some more things since I've stepped back from the platform a little bit. Like I can relate a lot to what you're talking about, like that feeling of, well, with Worlds coming up, maybe I should cool it a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah,
and just my personality, I think I tended to err on that side almost all the time.
yeah, yeah.
So well, I was
I
just going to
mean,
say that it's been nice for me to be a bit more adventurous and stuff since I've kind of stepped back from competing a little bit more in the last year or two. But
yeah.
it's always fun to watch what you're up to as well, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I wish I could get more of it. Just like even with the spearfishing stuff we were talking about earlier, like I had a GoPro for a number of years, and I very rarely got to use it. But when I moved back to New Zealand, I started going out a lot more. I drowned it one day. I just got all wet and soaked, and I'd never been able to use it, obviously. So, and I'm not really that keen on spending $600 to get on a GoPro. So. And I'm like, we'll have to sort it out one day, maybe when I get a bit better and actually got some really cool stuff to post. But
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
until then, I'll just keep learning and keep it in the shadows. Make it sound like I'm good. Yeah,
Yeah, you don't want the people that know about spearfishing to see.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well, you mentioned the quad injury. Do you
yeah,
want to go into that a little bit? So, kind of how that all came about, and just kind
yeah.
of
So it was pretty much like I guess like anything, you sort of you have a tight area or whatever you want to call it, and a certain muscle group, and it maybe had come about a couple of weeks prior to actually happening. And I sort of knew it was there, but normally I'm quite like I'm really conscious of this sort of stuff, and I sort of know like when to go. Yep, no, just go for it, or maybe just pull back, or no, just miss this session. Like I've sort of got those directions that I always like to go in with where my body's sort of at, and it sort of got to this week. It was the fourth week of my block, and so that for me that's the last week, and it was a competition squat session. So it's the high priority stuff. So and it's the stuff that gets me really excited. And I was just sitting there warming up, and it was particularly tight, but it was nothing that was like that had me overly concerned. I wasn't like, oh, I'm about to tear my quad type stuff. And warming up, and it felt okay. With those sorts of like that sort of feeling, you're always a little bit hesitant, I guess. And just came up out of one of the reps, and I just heard it tear. I just like you could hear the tearing of the muscle, and just had to bail on it pretty hard. And yeah, that was the sort of incident, I guess. Like that's just sort of how it happened. It was like maximal load, and just it just went. And regardless if it was the next set or the set after, any time that the bar speed really slowed down, it was pretty much going to happen. So it was all just straight into rehab from there, which was actually quite it wasn't a bad process. Like I was actually like I guess I was like I wasn't sad about it. Like I was like disappointed, I guess, but like I was like it's happened. Like, and I was quite positive about the whole experience. I wasn't worried. I wasn't like, oh my god, I'm going to lose this off my squad. I was just like, oh, I need to get it back so I can get back training and just move on with it, I guess. Like, whereas maybe in the past I may have not have been like that. I would have been like, a bit more worried. I'm like, oh my god, going on about it. But I was in a good place for it, and I had some some good guys around me just to sort of help me through it. And the rehab of it was pretty straightforward, really, and it was all like, just get back to full range of motion, low loads, and that's essentially all I did. Really, it was like get some movement on it to get the muscle, wanting to reattach faster. So I went through that phase for about 3 weeks. And then I think the 4th week is when I tried to add a little bit more load. But what I should have done then is I actually should have just completely rested it for about 10 days, which is eventually what was confirmed by the sports doc that I saw. And so because what I was still getting pain through the muscle itself. So, I would come back and I'd be like getting frustrated, but it sort of hasn't gone away, but it's been 4 weeks. So I eventually saw the specialist where he looked over my scan results and stuff like that. And he just said, look, man, just take 10 days off, come back and you'll be fine. Just, start adding some load from there and then just sort of see how it feels and you should be right. And that's exactly what happened. I came back and, we started out low just with a little bit of volume. Yep, good, no pain. Boom, and then straight back into it. Now we're back into, 100% confidence. I wouldn't say the strength's 100% there, but it's 99% of the way there and we're heading in a good direction. So, just a little hurdle along the way, I guess, which everyone experiences.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it didn't bother you too much mentally, or at least it was a lot more manageable mentally. Now, that's a pretty, that's a pretty significant injury heading toward a very significant competition. So what types of things did you do to help cope with it mentally?
Well, I just try to look at it from maybe some point of views that would just help me think and just not stress about the training I'm not doing, essentially. So I was like, all right, like maybe if I think about a lot of competitions we go into where sort of, like we always talk about the phase where, we're 3 or 4 weeks out and we're all tired and we're sort of just overtraining. We've been in a long training block and we're getting to the point where we are peaking for a competition, but we're sort of a little bit burnt out as well. And I think a lot of the times I sort of experience that, although it may not be like, a whole lot of fatigue or not, blah, 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 but my weeks upon weeks of training, you're just sort of like, I just want to get to the competition. I was like, well, with this one, like if I'm going to have 4 weeks off now, I'm going to be like sort of coming up that phase where I'm like, I'm not even able to get there yet because I'm like training right into the competition. And I'm like, well, I hope I can just get to the point where like, get to that point where like, I'm back to 100%. I'm sort of feeling confident, feeling good about my strength, and I can just go and compete. So I was like, and maybe in the past that's sort of like something that could have been really good, like having a really low stress period where I'm not concerned about numbers. I'm not worried about any of that stuff yet because it doesn't matter right now, which is like, if I go back and look, I've always hit PRs or like really good numbers, a number of months out from a good competition. And I'm like, well, maybe this time I can just relax now and just like really like give it my all, physically and mentally for this whole period of time that I've got available to me, knowing that I need every single session of it to, make something happen. So I just thought about it like that, really. Like I was just like, just enjoy this time where you don't have to stress about numbers and going to the gym and doing all this other stuff. Like I'll go do what I can do, which was ultimately really was just bench press and a few light deadlifts. Focus on some rehab stuff, which wasn't like really too much I could do. And I sort of just took it like that, really, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I know just from talking to you, you sound like you're in a much more relaxed headspace than you were, say this time last year or anything like that. You seem relaxed, confident, and like you're having fun. which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
nice to see. Um, and I think there's a lot to that approach, the kind of this how do I want to say this? Just kind of the approach of, you talked about a lot of guys are super beat up, tired, burned out, overtrained a little bit, in that 3 weeks to 4 weeks period from the comp,
yeah,
and kind of can't wait for the taper to start, can't wait for this to be over with, like that.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
felt that way before a lot too. But that's something that I never really felt was productive. Like I don't think
yeah,
that makes you a better lifter to feel like that. Um, so that's one thing I think is better about the training framework that we've been using over the last couple years now, uh, where we're kind of matching the block length, to the athlete's response. So,
yeah,
you take
yeah,
somebody like you, on a normal basis. So your development cycles are 4 weeks, I'm pretty sure,
yeah,
and 3 weeks kind of as we get into higher intensities. So, we may be like 3-4 weeks out from a major competition and we're doing a deload, and
yeah,
I've had other
yeah,
people in that situation before, and they're like, man, it feels really weird to be like not
yeah.
training hard, I'm 4 weeks out, but hey, if it's what your body responds to, and that's what's going to make the best performance at the competition, then
Yeah,
that's
it's
what you should be
reliable.
doing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
reliable. I 100% understand it.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. And yeah, maybe like I know from the point of like a training point of view, but like sort of more, yeah, like I guess what I was sort of getting at is maybe it wasn't just like it was yeah, it was maybe more so just that stress factor of like, you're coming into some big blocks, and like we know how the training's structured, etc. But you always want to leave a training block like in a really good position to jump into the
Yeah.
next one and the next one and the next one. Whereas now I've only had this one and that one, and we've got to finish it off here. Like, so I think that's been really cool. It's just like, it's just like I've got to give it everything to make this one good because I've only got the next one, or the one after is like a really small one. So that's been like quite exciting for me, like just to move through those phases. Yeah, just like knowing that like each time I'm just like I've got to make the most of it, and I'm like just getting back to 100%, so I'm actually able to give it everything, So
Well, that's actually a really interesting idea. Just kind of the idea that, you know, kind of as a rule of thumb, I like to keep the pivot blocks kind of a third the length of the development cycle. So
yeah,
like a three week or 4 week development cycle is going to usually get like a 1 week pivot, but that maybe ought to change after you stack up a couple development cycles, especially with those shorter pivots, because you do keep a lot of momentum from one block to the next. And maybe, every third or fourth development cycle, you ought to take an extra pivot week or something like that,
yeah,
I don't know.
definitely, yeah.
Something that's just popped into my head right now. So maybe that's a terrible idea.
Well,
But
I think like you'll run the pivots after a competition for 2 weeks. It's like
right.
you can almost sort of think about it like that. Although, like we've just come off like essentially a good peak, depending on what the priority of the competition was. You come and do 2 weeks of sort of low stress training or just the pivot work, which are not easy either. That's not to
Yeah.
be misunderstood either. But it's just like mentally, it's low stress. You're just showing up to the gym, we get the work done, and we've got something to really look forward to. Whereas like if you just gave someone 1 week after competition, like you can use those same ideas in between like bigger blocks and stepping stones towards what is essentially a first block of what's a greater looking like macro cycle, for instance, into a bigger
Yeah.
comp. Like, it's the same sort of idea, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right about that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
yeah. So, I think that's another aspect of training that you and I are really kind of one mind about. Just that a lot of people overuse the getting really beat up before a competition. Like the
yeah,
need to put in more work than is really going to be good for them. I've not really had anything positive come from the times where I've tried to do that, and I don't
yeah.
think you have either. Really ever.
Nah.
Um,
all of my training and literally almost every session, every week, every block, it's like for all of those individual sessions, I need to be feeling somewhat pretty good, pretty ready to go, like,
Yeah.
you talk about, you break up your, like what you called like low stress, medium stress, high stress. Like I need to be in that like medium stress range pretty, like if I start to get towards the high, go downhill pretty quick. Like I just get into the gym and, you just can't perform. And yeah, I think, yeah, just for me, like I'm definitely thinking about my training just off the top of my head, like all my confidence, like, and all of my sessions that I've, really enjoyed that have like gone right. That's gone so well. Now I know I can do this or that, and just building my confidence up in general. Like I've gone into those sessions feeling like really, really good, and walked away with good results at either the end of those blocks or whatever it may be. But like to those times where I'm just like super beat up and that, like it's I've just never had that feeling like, oh, if I just rest, a little bit longer and come back, and it just hasn't quite worked out like that for me, and I mean, there could be a number of ways. Like, obviously, like it's not going to work with the way that you structure your training. But like, I can see it maybe working if guys are just like building out longer and longer blocks, and where they sort of try and program that stuff in. But I'm just not entirely convinced on that it works for me, especially so.
Yeah, yeah, me either. And I've never really been able to get it to work kind of with any programming style that I've used. And I've suggested before that I think that it's probably not as effective as it's made out to be. I don't think. I guess I'll just kind of stick to
Yeah,
my opinions, right? But I don't think it's as effective as it's made out to be. And I think it seems more effective than it is because I think you get some guys that are just meet day performers, that they
yeah,
show up on meet day and they always perform better. And well, yeah, that looks like, oh, they got so much out of the taper when they would have got that much even if they hadn't tapered.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think the other thing is that, if you're chronically beat down in your training, then your performance is lower. And then if you rest, it goes back up to baseline, and that looks like a nice little increase,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
no, I mean, that said, there's a lot of people that really think that that's the way. So, I mean, nobody's gonna, uh, sign any death certificates because I said so, but
yeah. The way I try and see it now, especially, is like, hey, if it's working for you and like you're enjoying it, well, man, like don't change a thing, man. Like just go
yeah,
for it and do your thing. So like, I always respect that. Like if someone's got something that's working and they're executing on it, man, like I'm all for it. So yeah, just go ahead, but don't try to
yeah,
put me in that state because I don't like feeling like that. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you there for sure. So,
Have you? Can I just ask you a question? With
yeah,
your
of
like
course.
with the training style that you run, um, if someone does get into a position where they're like, say midway through a block, say they're a 6 week block, and they're having really down performances, like say week threes, four, maybe week 3 and 4, and they're sort of coming into week 5, and like week 3 and 4 is maybe not normally like they're not heavily fatigued at this stage. Normally, they're normally not on a down performance week or 2 weeks. Like, what sort of changes would you look to make with an
Well,
athlete like that?
that's a good question. So if they're that's not normal for them to have those kind of dips. Uh, if we have the time, I think the best answer is to just cut it. Just in the block, do your pivot block, and then start a fresh block.
Yeah,
If you don't have time, like maybe you're going into a competition and there's no time to kind of re-peak, then you, that's less of an ideal situation. You're stuck, trying to, change it, figure out whatever it is that you
yeah,
think is causing it, whether, maybe you've got an exercise in there that you thought was going to be fine, but it turns out it causes hip pain, so, okay, well, maybe just swapping that exercise out would be enough to salvage the block. Um, I've had that happen once or twice. Um, but if it's, something else, the volume or, maybe
Yeah.
life circumstances popped up, then you may just have to, it's kind of a best guess at that point, I think. But really, I think the best answer, if you have the time, just cut it off there and start over again, pick up a fresh development cycle. I think that's a lot of times better for the lifter mentally, is nobody likes to feel like they're just trying to salvage something, they we're trying to build a thing, not just make the best of a bad situation or something,
Yeah. No, I understand, because I think what I was saying before, maybe when I was cut off, was is like one thing I especially like seeing or feel is anyway is like, and it works so well. And I think with your training, that's why I like it in particular, is just like being consistent week in, week out. Like there's no need for me to step up one day, but next week it's like completely different. It's like I just need to consistently approach each and every session, and we can sort of develop, I guess, consistent or like reliability and like sort of answers almost, block to block, like because you're showing up and essentially not doing the same thing where you are, but like I'm just saying, as an athlete, you've got to just go and repeat a process essentially, and it's like with the way things are at now, like when guys aren't consistent, like they've just got outside factors that affect training a lot. I was just going to run past you, like, what do you look to make any changes there, like when you start to see inconsistent results, like week to week, where it just almost becomes unpredictable?
Yeah. So sometimes that happens, like I work with a couple guys that have some pretty crazy work schedules, and sometimes you hit a weird string of work and that's going to throw things off, and you just kind of have to make a note of it and move on. It makes the information a little bit less perfect, I guess. And it's already a hard question in terms of data. You're working with what's, by definition going to be really limited data. So losing those things is kind of not that great, which is another reason why, I really try to get everybody to log their training as much as possible, so we have as much of that information as we can get, but I mean, at the same time, things happen, and I think that's, so I've been thinking about this a bit more lately too, that there is a skill component to being a coach, just the same as there's a skill component to being an athlete. And I think that in a large part you can develop that, but you talk to some coaches, especially, coaches that have been around for a long time, they may not have like deductive, rational reasons for every decision that they make. Some decisions are kind of intuitive. It's an intuition based off of something, and most likely it's their experience, which can be wrong for sure, but it's not wrong by definition or anything, So I think a lot of it's going to come back to that, when you're kind of faced with those, it's really faced with uncertainty. You've got to make some decision, so you just kind of do the best you can, and you're pulling on your experience and, everything that you've learned up to this point, There's a lot more of like intuitive type of answers when it comes to coaching than I think some people realize. Certainly more than I realized when I was like first getting into this.
I think then some people just want to be honest about it, really, is it sort of can come down to as well. Like just understanding that there is a lot of, not everything's definitive, like I can give you a best guess and here's what I'll do, but it's not like this is the, it's not like we're saying this is, no, this is what has to happen. Like, let's just like be, I think I read something Bryce posted the other day. It was like maybe a number of weeks ago. It was just like, just being like, I can't think of the exact way he worded it. It was just about being comfortable with like being able to give advise that there's so much uncertainty and things we're trying to be or want to be certain about. It was some way he worded it way better because he's just awesome with that stuff. But like when I read it, I was like, oh, he nailed it. He nailed it. He always does.
No, it's human beings are so complicated, and there's so much going on in something as complicated as developing an athlete over a fairly long period of time. That there's just no way to reduce it down to a math problem. I don't think, at least not for a human being. I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody will invent an AI that can handle it, but we're a damn long way off from that right now.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit, coming up on IPF Worlds. How are you feeling going into this competition?
I'm actually pretty excited. I'm pretty like, I think there's always something exciting about going to IPF Worlds. It's like there's a lot of things going on. I think it's one of the biggest competitions in the world, obviously, and we get the chance to travel. Like, so we're going over to Canada obviously soon, long way away. We're around. There's a lot of people to catch up with. Just the powerlifting scene in general. There's some big lifts going down, and to be a part of that, I think is pretty cool. So no, I'm real excited for it. I'm really excited just to go and just do what I can, I guess. Give my all and I think I'm in a really good space at the moment, and with my lifting and just in general, and just want to go put on a good performance. I think after Worlds last year and then the comps following that, I think I sort of made some really good headway into how I want to approach things and just change things up a little bit. And had some really good success there. I think I've done three comps since then. I've only missed one lift, so yeah, we're definitely making some progress. So I'm just like, I think overall I'm just excited just to get back on the platform,
Well, when you say that, just kind of how you've changed your approach in the last, since IPF Worlds last year, can you go into a bit more detail on that? Like, what do you feel like has changed for you?
Yeah, I think it's more or less just the way, like, when I think about when I first started, or maybe not first started lifting, but first started getting really, really competitive, and just the way I was maybe then, like, as far as like I was so aggressive, like like I was very vocal, like very loud, and that was just what I was doing at the time, and I thought, when, like, it's sort of like that mentality, like when you do something well, you think that that's what you have to always do to maintain that. It's like, but we don't think about that like in other things. Like in training, we know that things adapt and we change it over time, adjusting with what's going on. And I think for me, it was like I was trying to keep that up. I was like, oh, I need to go and eat chest. I need to be super focused. I need to have this routine that is absurd, just because I think that's gonna, I'm gonna have the best recovery. I'm gonna go into the gym each time mentally. I want to be the best. Like, I've got this routine that I do before a comp that I have to do, and and when I'm on the stage, I've got to be super aggressive. Like, this is how I lift the best weights. Like, and I guess I was going through a phase where, like, like I was like, I guess it wasn't like, it wasn't as genuine as I wanted it to be. Like, it was like, I felt like I was putting my, like, pressure on myself to get to maintain that. And I think that's sort of where it was sort of messing me up a bit mentally. I'm like, oh, but I don't feel I can get there. But like, like if I want to get really hyped up for a lift, and I was like, oh, but I don't really feel like that I need to get hyped up. But I'm like, no, but you have to. Like, this is what you do. Like, come on, man, let's do it. Like, and, like in your head, you're playing these mind games with yourself. Like, no, we have to. Come on, just get psyched up and get that feeling back. Start yelling, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And like I was in this this weird phase where I was like, oh, but I don't really want to do that. And I think all that's happened now is I've just accepted that. I'm just like, oh, well, I don't really need to do that. Like, I've had a really good session the other day, and I was actually just chatting to my mate a minute before I did that PB bench. Like, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I just need to do the training well, and I'll execute, because like nothing changes for me physically. Like, I mean, yeah, I'll try, like, really focus on in some moments and switch it on and off, like, the on off switch people talk about for years and years. And I think it was more a fact of me just accepting that, just like, and we talked earlier about, like, the sports stuff, like me doing other activities. me just accepting that those are a part of what I do. Like, and that might, maybe I'm not making all the sacrifices that we all talk about as fellas that we can make. But like for me, that's given me a better headspace. I'm more balanced. Like, and people talk about like, well, to be the best, you can't be balanced. But like at the end of the day, like I need something that's going to be like, oh, I feel like going to the gym today, and I feel like training, and hey, look, I'm still going really well, and I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, and I think that's brought me some excitement. And it's just allowed me to sort of just be myself and just do what I need to do. Because I found myself at the end of year comp last year, I was just like out the back. I didn't want my music, and I just took my music off and just set my headphones out. I was just talking to some of the guys out the back, and just had like a really awesome time, really awesome comp, and I just felt like really relaxed about the whole thing. I was like, oh, that was good. And I did that the week after, and it was really good. And then just like all my training sessions have been really similar for like the last, I'd say 9 months. And I just feel like I'm in a good space now. Like that's something I can maintain over, not just the next year, but like, the next 5-10 years. So,
right. Yeah.
Whereas before, like maybe, that just probably wasn't, I'm not going to be able to go into the gym. Yeah. Just doing all the ridiculous stuff for 30 years, like it's just not realistic. So I think at some point, everyone's going to transition through a phase like that. And it's just about trying to accept it as soon as you can. Like, right, this is what I've got to work with. This is what I want to achieve. This is where I'm at mentally. Let's just accept that and move on. And I think that took me maybe a while to sort of, get over that hurdle, I guess.
Well, I think that's an important message too, that your mental game will shift, and you need to be attentive to it and go with it rather than fight it.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me. Like there's sessions that you'll go into that you feel like being more aggressive, then be more aggressive, and if you don't, then don't. Like some sessions I go into, I listen to music. Some sessions I listen to podcasts. It's a very different mentality. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. I think it kind of goes back to the comment you made about being balanced. To be the best, you're not going to be balanced anyway. And I think that's true, but I don't think any of us are anywhere close to what a normal person would call balanced in terms of exactly the space that this occupies in our life or anything like that. So we're not. I think you've got to be in a situation where the training that you do is a positive influence on your life. Like if it's a drain on you, man, I've been there myself, like where, I've convinced myself that this is the thing that I've got to do. It's almost the same thing with what you're talking about. This is the thing I've got to do if I want to win, winning is the most important thing to me right now. So that's what I'm going to do. And it never quite worked out that way for me, at least, like my best sessions were when I was focused on, instead of doing what I thought I had to do to win, to do the thing that I thought was going to be the best, make the decision I thought was going to be the best decision for me. I don't know, maybe I'm sure that's a thing that's different for everybody, but that's kind of where I was at headspace wise. Old man stories, I guess. But
it's relatable, like, it's been crazy, I guess, the change, like when I think about just, the last few years, I guess, and just come to terms with it and just do what you can, man. And I think, it's really brought back, the fire, I guess, inside me, just, for day in, day out activities, like the competition stuff's always going to be there, and being competitive, and, powerlifting's obviously always going to be a huge part in, day-to-day stuff and my life in general. So it's like, there's always that balance. It's always going to be like, like this guy's ridiculous. It's not like I go into the gym and like we're on the same level as everyone else, like, so it's just fine tuning that aspect of things. Right. And even when I think back, like, all the progress I've made since day one, when I started training, all the way through to when I was, competing at Worlds, I was doing all this stuff. I was playing other sports. I was, doing what any 25-year-old does. So, I just had to realize that,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I asked a question on the internet, really mostly about, if anybody had anything that they wanted to make sure that got asked during this podcast, and oddly enough to me, the number one question that people wanted me to ask you was for beard care tips. But I'm gonna assume that you can put together a YouTube video to help out the powerlifting world on beard care tips.
Man, I want to get rid of this thing so bad, and the countdown is on for like the day afterwards. It's just going to be like round straight up. But yeah, it's filthy.
I did. I did have a couple questions that some people asked that I thought were some good questions to send your way. What lift, I guess, like single lift, in your career up to this point, are you most proud of?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one, eh? That is a tough one.
Do you have like a top couple?
It would probably be like the 321.5 deadlift I did at in Australia when I did that last year. I think it was a world record at the time for a couple of minutes. I think it's a nice feeling to me getting a good deadlift in. Like for me it was a good deadlift at the time, and my grip held up. Thank God. And that was a cool feeling, finishing off a good solid meet with a good solid deadlift. I think everyone always appreciates that.
Yeah.
There was one of the lifts that that I always play over my head too is 2016. I pulled 330 kilos, so that's like, I don't know, 725 pounds or something like that. And I got it right up to lockout, like literally like at lockout, and my left hand just undid and I just dropped it. That was at the Arnold's, at the Arnold Pro, and I was still proud of that lift. I was like, man, that was a good
close.
deadlift. Like you locked that out almost until you dropped it. Like, so I'm like, I always look back on the lift. I'm like, nah, man, I got to get back to that point. Like my grip's strong enough. Like we're going to be there in the money. Like,
yeah.
So that's a lift like I'm sort of proud of, but like, and I look back on and use for like future motivation because I know I'm capable of it. And I think those are the main ones. Like I haven't quite hit the head on the nail on the head with the squat and bench yet, but I think even at the last meet or one of my last meets, I did five plate bench. So we did a 220 kilo bench with just kilo plates. I think that was a pretty cool moment to do that in a competition.
Yeah.
And yeah, like nailing that 302 kilo squat in New Zealand, like doing it in New Zealand on New Zealand soil. I think that was a pretty cool moment as well. Like just to finally go, man, I knew you could do it, but we've done it now. Like, thank God, like we can move on from it.
Yeah.
So I think those are some pretty cool moments. And like I guess like those are some of the lifts I look back on. I'm like, yeah, no, that was good. That was really good.
Yeah.
But I think like always, like I look back to it, I'm like, oh, but we can do better. We're going to move on to the next one. So, how long can you be proud of something when like, damn, we're better now. Like we're better. We can do better. So it's hard to really like. Yeah.
There's always the next one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for people who are struggling with their bench press? Like, do you have any go-tos, or is it all I guess more personalized?
I'm not. Yeah, it is a tough one for me. I've always been quite a strong bench presser, but yeah, for me, one of the biggest thing that's always clicked for me is reps 8 and above, like just getting in like a really solid foundation of bench press volume, via just touch and go, like a mix of touch and go. bench pressing. And I think that's like when I started working with you, when you did, we programmed 8s and 10s, that there's a reason they're still in there. It's because like I love them so much. They've got good response. But I think just like everyone in general, like responds well to those higher reps. Most people, I can't say everyone.
I was thinking about that today, actually. So since I've packed up and getting ready to move, I'm training a lot in this commercial gym. And there's some, a lot of bodybuilder types train there. And, man, there are some really impressive benchers,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that lately. Like over the years, as I've traveled around, been to different gyms, I've come across a lot of people who are not really powerlifters. They're more bodybuilder types, and they have some benches that would put a lot of powerlifters to shame, and I've been thinking like, man, what is it about that? And I don't know, maybe it's the reps, maybe it's something else, but I think you're onto something. And
I think the other thing I want to mention too maybe is it depends on like just the way you bench in general, but like let the chest get strong, let the actual pecs get strong, and take load at the bottom. I think like a lot of the times what I see is people are not like allowing the chest to take that load when they're actually on the chest itself. Like they'll have a lot of like just like I guess pressure through the forearm or through the tricep, and they're holding on the front shoulder to some degree. And you'll see like that's why they'll press it 5-6 inches maybe off the chest, and they'll just completely stop there. So it's just like, for me, it's just like just being able to like actually open up that rib cage and let the chest take that load, all the time in training. And I think like that's been one of the biggest things for me, is like actually just recognizing that, like get away from just hammering that front shoulder and thinking that I need a really strong lockout. It's like, well, no, I need to be stronger off the chest and actually let my chest get strong and build some real muscle here. And, and that's why like touch and go, and I mean, we use that as a base for just higher reps, but regardless if it's touch and go or not, like I can do that pause, I can do 2 count pauses. Like you should be able to do all those variations within a single set for high rep ranges. So just showing good bar control, and that shouldn't hammer your front shoulders or your tricep. You should be smashing your chest when you're doing that. I think that maybe that's a good takeaway for people, is just to open up that rib cage and get the chest work, and open up the elbows a bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think that sounds like good advice to me.
Yeah.
Kind of last question here, and I'll let you get back to your day to day. Do you have any big plans for after IPF Worlds in Calgary, whether that's life plans or otherwise, or anything you want to talk about?
No, there's nothing like, I guess, nothing too much. I don't really have any plans after Calgary.
Kind of just looking forward to the comp being over, and then you.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to at the moment. I've just got to I've got to realize I've got to focus on just that comp.
Yeah.
And then, like I guess whatever else is on the cards after that will be on the cards after that. I mean, the thing with me is like, I'm in New Zealand at the moment. It's a long way from anywhere else. So like, comps aren't easy to come by if you want to be on the international scene. So, but I'm looking forward to some spearfishing trips maybe after Worlds. I need to go do a bit of a road trip with the North Island, and get some good training in with some of the powerlifters, up the coast as I travel up, and maybe do that. And yeah, not too much else. I've got like a little bit of a powerlifting squat, bench, deadlift sort of clothing line starting, which I'm pretty excited about.
Nice.
Which is it's sort of my way of just sort of like giving back money into the powerlifting community. So we're donating a good proportion of profits into like a unique way of giving back. So it's going to be all basically how I want to give back, like whether I pay that money to clubs to buy like Alico racks, or sponsor individuals to go to events that they may want to go to, or pay a meet director so no one has to pay an entry fee for a meet, and just stuff like that I'm pretty excited about, which has been a long time in the making, because it's I don't know if you ever try to, I mean, like you do your RTS shirts, so you may have some idea about it, but like the logistics of everything and ordering and sampling, and it's been a big learning curve for me, which has been exciting at the same time. Doing a lot of learning in that department. So that's just a little project I've been working on the side, and I'm looking forward to, I think, launching that June 8th. I think it comes out. So
exciting! Yeah, that's right
yeah.
around the corner then. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and that's a really cool way of kind of contributing back into the sport. So, is there, if I remember right, this podcast will probably post shortly before that. So, just by a matter of days. So if somebody wants to find out more information about that, how do they track it down?
Well, it'll have its own website, which is squatbenchdeadlift.com, but you've just got to spell it right. That's the problem with it.
You got to spell it Brett Gibbs way. Yeah.
It's SKWOT squat, and bench is BINCH, and then deadlift is DIDLIFT. And it's just something that's come about, just from me saying squat bench deadlift as a Kiwi, and just had some previous sales which went beyond what I'd thought was capable of selling t-shirts, etc. And I thought, why don't we just take it to the next step, and I'll take control of designing stuff and doing things the way that I'd want to do them, and being able to open up that gateway to actually contribute something back in a meaningful way. That's not just about me. That it doesn't, it's nothing to do with me. It's here's what we want to try and set out to achieve. And if you want to support it, you can. If you don't, that's cool.
Right. I think that's a really cool idea, and I dig the brand too. I think it's a neat brand. What about you more personally? If people have questions or follow up, or they want to pick your brain about something, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
If anyone wants to ever just get in touch with me, just brettgibbspowerlifting.com. They can just send a contact inquiry through the website, and happy to chat about anything. Anything that I can help with, I'm always here.
Excellent.
So no, it's good.
Yeah. All right, Brett. Well, thanks very much for taking the time, man. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in Canada in 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah,
when are you going to be there? You're going to be there for the Opens, are you? Wednesday to Sunday or something? Or
so with us getting ready to move and the new baby and everything, I had to pare it down as much as I could, which is
I'm surprised you're coming, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
I'm sneaking away for the Open, so I'll be there for the Open competition, which is that's a lot for me at this time, but definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun trip. It's always a fun trip. So
man, sounds good. Make sure to bring some RTS shirts over. There'll be plenty of people that want to grab some too.
If
you have some in stock anyway, that's I know you're always a bit low on stock. So
I was thinking of printing a few up to bring over, and I was just talking with someone today about maybe trying to organize a swap. So we may do some of that as well. So,
man, sounds good.
Very cool.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, and I look forward to catching up in Calgary.
Yeah, likewise.
Reactive Training Systems.